your chances of survival were essentially zero. During this time, man had natural predators, meaning the strength you had in numbers was gone, and you would soon become the lunch of a much larger animal. The Bronze Age. The Bronze Age is undoubtedly one of the most significant turning points in all of human history. And if you've seen any of my time period videos, you would know exactly why. The Bronze Age is when humans began transitioning out of pure hunter-gatherer tribes into early settled societies. And it's with these settled societies that we begin to see humanity and human activities begin to flourish. Most notably, leisure activities and pastimes. During the Bronze Age, nomadic tribes began building settlements. Early agriculture was being established. Animals were being domesticated. Trade was becoming extremely popular. And possibly most importantly, humans began keeping records. Meaning we have a lot more context and insight into exactly what people were doing for fun during this time period. Interestingly, while it may seem that people had a lot more to do during the Bronze Age, due to all of the advancements in human civilization and technology, people actually had more free time. And that's because more of their needs were beginning to be met. With the introduction of irrigation in agriculture and farming, as well as a reduction in the nomadic lifestyle, humans had a lot more time that was previously spent hunting, gathering, and traveling that could now be dedicated to other activities. And while some of this newfound time was dedicated to furthering technological discoveries or economic development, there was a good amount of time that could still be dedicated to leisure tasks. And with humans having more time and more technology to dedicate to their leisure, they were able to spawn some pretty interesting pastimes. And the one example that I'm going to highlight for the Bronze Age is ancient board games. One of the most famous examples of Bronze Age board games dates all the way back to 3100 BC in ancient Egypt. During this time, the Egyptians were playing a game that was known as Senet. And interestingly, just like how cave paintings weren't just a pastime in the Stone Age, the board game of Senet wasn't just a pastime in the Bronze Age. It actually held deep symbolic and religious meaning. But before we get to the meaning or gameplay, let's just take a look at the board itself. Senet boards vary in quality and size depending on whose it was, if it was the board of a royal or the board of a peasant. But regardless, all boards shared similar properties. A Senet board contained 3 rows of 10 squares, for a total of 30 squares, that is, on the top. Some Senet boards were flat, although many Senet boards themselves were actually a box, which contained a sliding compartment which would be used to hold the game pieces themselves, which is really quite interesting. And while for most regular Senet boards, they were typically rather portable or at least handheld, Senet boards that were owned by the royals were stationary and looked like tables themselves and were highly decorated and beautiful. Although, obviously, those were luxury items attainable by only a select few. The exact rules to the original game of Senet have been lost to time, unfortunately. And that's because this game fell out of popularity nearly 2,400 years ago. However, archaeologists did have enough context clues and supporting evidence to make their own modern